Well, hello, fans of brilliant television, and welcome to Watch It, Pal. I'm your host, Danny Blanco. Television shows, like cars, have engines that determine how they can move. A healthy engine is critical if you don't want your storyline to sputter out 2 or 3 seasons in. You really need dynamic infrastructure that can drive plot points for years. The Office tortured itself through the agonizing simmer of tension between Jim and Pam. It's Always Sunny channeled its power via an endless procession of outrageous, uniquely American ignorance. Breaking Bad juxtaposed a domestic sludge story
veggie bacon
with a Macbethian tragedy, thus completely changing the television paradigm back at the start of the 2010s. And in 2019, the cutting-edge, state-of-the-art craftwork in TV engineering is done on Adam McKay and Jesse Armstrong's Succession. Only 2 seasons in, and this story has evidently shown the potential to join the pantheon of masterpieces in storytelling. Succession's engine operates through a hard-hitting, stomach-churning psychodrama of bondage, humiliation, and submission.
I want to see you little piggy fucks eat.
Oink for your sausages, Piggy. Oink, oink. No half-hearted oink. I want full-hearted oink.
Oink, 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 oink. Oink, oink, oink.
It's also a coke-addled Arrested Development type of dark comedy.
The issue here, sir, is that everyone fucking hates you.
And when it comes to certain characters like Tom and Greg, the narrative morphs into a claustrophobic spectacle that cages its poor participants into an absurdist play.
They make a Cajun chicken linguine just how I like it.
But that's not how you're supposed to like it.
So, first and foremost is this juxtaposition of different styles. Sometimes it's House of Cards or Game of Thrones, and at others, it's The Office.
Playing like a pro, C, L to the OG.
They call it Scranton. What? The Electric City. Scranton. What? The Electric City.
Watch these cuts and the way the camera hangs on the actors' faces.
They fuck you up, your mom and dad. They do not mean to, but they do. They fill you up with faults they had and add some extra just for you.
Stylistically, the show is obsessed with setting a parallel between the serious, necessary discussion and an absolute irony that makes it impossible to make any meaningful progress.
I guess what I want is for you to tell us how you were feeling.
How I'm feeling?
Mm-hmm.
I feel I need to check my emails.
It's not a feeling, Dad.
Maybe don't deny Dad's feelings, Shiv.
It frustrates its own possibility of resolution by really strengthening the prerogative of each character to be fully themselves.
Honesty. You see, everybody, do you see? Honesty.
A few moments later.
You're spared if you tell the truth, and I just told you the truth.
Oh, there are rules.
Right?
But you know something, Greg? There are no fucking rules.
Secondly, all of the characters act within an ethos of distrust and cynicism. There are very few principles the characters espouse. In fact, values of any sort are bandied about as unessential epiphenomenon that make no material difference in the world.
Kind of against my principles?
Your principles? Craig, don't be an asshole. You don't have principles.
Dude, ATN is a very toxic element in the culture.
Seriously, okay, name me one principle that you have.
I don't know, like I'm against racism.
Bullshit, I'm against racism. True, he's gone. I mean, Nazis, terrible, right?
Nazis?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're the worst.
Yeah, sure. We all hate Nazis.
Only one belief reigns supreme: winning.
I will win.
If you let anything other than the best strategy cloud your judgment, like love, politics, or truth, then you will be tossed to the wolves. Succession is thus at heart a show about how unadulterated American competitiveness has rotted the core of the American family and effectively turned the Roy family into this heartless genetic carnival.
Kenny.
Logan, as a character, views any sense of emotion as a source of weakness.
You have to be a killer.
You must be a killer to win, and you must be willing to kill your own kin. In this regard, Succession shares more with the classic Greek tragedies like the Oresteia, Hippolytus, Antigone, Medea, and of course, Oedipus Rex, and all orders of other fiction that are obsessed with patricide and other taboos. This is what lends its dramatic angle authenticity, despite the constant slew of comedy.
I'm worried / excited in case he actually fucking kills Kendall. I mean, he might kill him.
Could go for him. He could kill him.
Man, it'd be so weird if he killed him.
The show's engine also features an injunction against any psychologism. The therapist is really the first person we see speak any truth to Logan's power, an act for which he ultimately pays by losing all his teeth in a moment of cosmic retribution. When we say the show really has the imperative against psychology, we mean it. This clearly stems from a deep, deep source of trauma, but that trauma, by the logic of the show, can never be revealed. The truth about one's past or their emotional composition is an event horizon that's impossible to look into. The whole mystery with Roman and the dog cage is again reflective of that, and so is all the joking about the brothers molesting one another. You'll notice a lot of shows set up these types of secrets, and it'll be important to look at how they're dealt with. For example, BoJack Horseman waited years to get into exactly why its titular anti-hero is so messed up, and that mystery continues to drive interest in Season 6. There's also a reflective jealousy that Logan has of his own kids, because they've gotten to live a life without any financial worries whatsoever.
You're so fucking jealous of what you've given your own kids. You can't handle it. You can't work it out.
So the show's pistons feature a simultaneity here of envy and pity. In fact, we as the viewer are constantly conditioned to both envy and pity the characters. We might be slightly jealous of their status and riches, but ultimately, the inhumanity of such high stakes makes it impossible for anyone to have any sort of normal relationship with their sibling,
Want to talk to each other normally? Talk about the big shit.
their parent, their colleague, or their significant other. The competition has seeped in and poisoned every aspect of each character's life. And that begins first and foremost with the family patriarch. This really emerges in the finales for both Season 1 and 2. In Season 1, when Ken approaches Logan with the letter and the declaration of war against him, the family patriarch answers the door by calling him son.
Go on through, son.
And is shaving in the bathroom in his underwear. He's naked. This type of staging is pretty stereotypical, but it sets up the ensuing drama well, because before the final scene, we're given a new reference of vulnerability. As this scene develops, it's apparent just how hard Kendall is trying, and you really have to ask, does Logan buy this mask Ken is wearing? Ken's face here reflects seething anger, frustration, and embarrassment. He's showing weakness. Even his justification of doing the right thing is immediately dismissed. The show spends the whole of Season 1 building up to this moment, but the father figure remains ominously powerful. That which gives Kendall his power is that which makes him immobile. It's an impossible Gordian knot for him to untie. So it's surprising, shocking even, when at the episode's end, Logan does not act vengefully after Kendall's crash, even though he was indeed betrayed by his son just a day earlier. Logan has swung into the position of power, and he's doing it gracefully, not by rubbing Ken's face in it, but by being kind. Now, this has a dual effect. The direct meaning is that Logan is human, and this is a bit of a tender moment. He forgives his son for what the world wouldn't. On the other, there's something even more sinister going on, because this is a whole new level of psychological forkery for Ken. It's off the charts how much this is going to mess him up, and his father must be acting in that knowledge. Of course, that's something unsaid, and the scene itself is kind of heartwarming, so it's really difficult for any viewer to assess. This strain between text and subtext is what makes it really good TV, and the capacity for the show writers to repeatedly generate a tension between surface knowledge and unconscious assumptions is a sure sign of health in its engine. As you're watching, you're also tense because you realize Logan could snap any second. The show's emotional register works constantly through these types of bursts and undeveloped epiphanies, lifting toward the kind of virtuosic vulnerability and self-exposure associated with, say, jazz. That improvisational capacity for emotion is everywhere, but this ability is not something that is ever going to function as the object of the scene. To put it another way, the show is about emotions, but it never discusses emotions.
I really can't. But, hey. Thank you.
All of this context is crucial to fully understand what exactly happens at the end of Season 2. To love, to truly love, is to give someone the opportunity to kill you.
What could you possibly kill that you love so much it would make the sun rise again?
It's the sacrificial lamb dynamic. We do what we must to win. So when Logan acts somewhat receptive to the idea of him taking the axe for the cruises scandal, or when the characters so blithely discuss who should be tossed to the wolves in the yacht scenes at the end of Season 2, that's what allows for that laid-back, nonchalant, but simultaneously terrified attitude all the characters comport themselves with. And Logan, at least on some implicit level, must know that it has to be him that is sacrificed. We've been discussing text and subtext, and we've stated that this show's core principle is the text of competition. That is what drives its logic. But as we see in this scene, there's also the value of family, of something that really does exist.
Enough, okay? We stick together. Most things don't exist. The Ford Motor Company hardly exists. It's just a time-saving expression for a collection of financial interests. But this exists because it's a family. We are a family.
It's exactly in this type of a situation wherein what you say matters, but also doesn't.
I don't know. I'm not saying you. I'm just saying.
After all, everyone is going to defend themselves and point the finger somewhere else. So whoever manages to completely transcend that dynamic of blame and narcissistic self-preservation will win. And that man is indeed Kendall. It can only be Kendall. Logan, at the beginning of this talk here, points attention to the fact that it should be himself to take the blame, but that no one in the inner circle will accept his sacrifice. Someone else must come in and carry out the will of God. Hence, the kiss of Judas here that Ken once again gives his father. The dialogue makes you think on the surface that Logan is justifying the sacrifice of Kendall, but the subtext here emerges as dominant because it's really a justification of why Ken should instead kill Logan. It is this reverse engineering that makes the show so brilliant. This time, though, unlike in Season 1, Ken is there to calmly accept the necessary. He makes no fuss, no drama. He is calm and collected. Logan gives him the prerogative of murder. He very easily could have prevented the situation, but he improvises on the fly. Obviously, Logan's willing to go through with Ken taking the blame, but that's only because no one has proven themselves strong enough to wrest the throne from him. Truth, revelation, a genuine moment of change requires some performance, some true remarkability. And so Logan's stranglehold on power can only be broken this way because it's such a crucial, central tenet of the show's engine. You can't change something like that without also having some modification in another major structure in the show, and that comes through this act of cleansing that Kendall forces on the family. Now, an engine is not some monolithic beast that predetermines a show's success. It is a fictitious entity that we just talk about when we want to contextualize how exactly a show is built up and what can make it successful. Show writing requires constant tinkering, polish, and fine-tuning to maintain a healthy engine. And there's no way of knowing if a new car part will break down the whole system by, say, introducing a new character, or if sticking to the same materials for a decade will turn your car into a heap of useless metal, as was the case with How I Met Your Mother and Dexter. Some problems are just too vast to actually solve without a stroke of genius. So it's difficult to say exactly where Succession might go past Season 2. No one can predict that. There's a reason we watch the episodes. Given what we said about competition and Logan, we really have no idea how the patriarch is going to react to Kendall's kiss of death. This is the story of success and the impossibility of maintaining it. How can you when there are billions of dollars in play with all eyes on you from the time you are in a crib with your siblings? It's a succession story as old as storytelling itself. It's Lear. It's The Godfather. It's the murder of Clytemnestra and the Orestes, another parental murder that is ultimately used as the foundation of a whole new form of justice. Breaking power is an act that can only be done through bloodshed. And that's a lesson that Succession understands. Most critically, these really serious, psychologically dense, metaphysical narratives are the most modern thing someone in 2019 could write. This has been Watch It, Pal, and I'm your host, Danny Blanco. Stay tuned for Why Succession is the Best Show on Television Part 2 by subscribing now.